Civilization or Barbarism, an Authentic Anthropology by Dr. Cheikh Anta. These facts led van der Meesch to conclude that Neanderthal man alone is specifically European, and that the origin of Homo sapiens must be found elsewhere, namely in the East, and to be precise, in Palestine, even though he does not pinpoint the exact location. As stated earlier, it is not impossible that Neanderthal man resulted from a progressive adaptation of the African Homo erectus in Europe during the Reese-Warmer interglacial period, and that afterward he migrated to the other continents, where he became extinct without leaving any descendants, contrary to what van der Meesch thinks. If this were actually the case, prehistoric archaeology would have to prove that Neanderthalian fossils of Europe were the continents to which this species migrated later. Now, no one can possibly make preemptorily such an affirmation. Broken Hill Man, Rhodesian or Zimbabwean man, is a Neanderthalian fossil, in some ways more primitive than the European skull of La Chapelle aux Saints, which is unmistakably resembles. I was not far from adopting the viewpoint above, but the fact that the African Neanderthal of Broken Hill dated by the amino acid method to be 110,000 years old is older than those of Europe, or in any case of comparable age, has again raised more questions. Now, it is no longer absurd to suppose that even Neanderthal man could have come from Africa. The oldest Neanderthalian fossils of Europe do not seem to date much beyond Verm 1 2, 80,000 years ago. Through radiocarbon dating, we now know that Negroid Homo sapiens sapiens with very voluminous skulls measuring up to 1,500 centimeters squared or cubed on average, if not more, lived in southern Africa between 50,000 years and 100,000 years ago, and that they were probably the ones who were called the world's first miners, the iron mines of Swaziland, cited in Chapter 1. The fossils of these Homo sapiens are represented by the large boss skull, the incomplete Floresbad head, one part of the skull and face, and the bony Cape Flats head. Thus, the largest skulls discovered to this day are those of these Negroids of southern Africa, contrary to the calculations of all the authors of Race Intelligence, a work that I will deal with much later. See pages 55 and 65. The Floresbad fossil was dated as being more than 41,000 years old. It is therefore older than all of the European Homo sapiens sapiens and those from the other continents when dated by a method of absolute chronology, without tenditious or biased interpretation. Finally, the Oriental origin of Homo sapiens, as van der Meesch asserts it, is today scientifically indefensible. In fact, van der Meesch took up the idea of Valois, who, following Sir Arthur Keith and T.D. McCowan, studied Palestine's Neanderthals and concluded that these fossils probably were not direct ancestors of Upper Paleolithic men, but rather that their existence indicates that while the transformation from Neanderthal man to modern man did not take place in Europe, it is able to take place somewhere else. This is a conclusion of extreme importance. Van der Meesch himself recognized that there was a serious difficulty of chronological nature, which unfortunately still persists. Indeed, in order for the hypothesis above to be acceptable, these fossils would have to belong at least to the Reese worm period. However, we now know that this is not the case. The radiocarbon and amino acid datings conducted in this region agree and give an age that varies between 37,000 and 53,000 BCE. Therefore, these would be ancestors of Homo sapiens, are much more recent than the African Homo sapiens sapiens, who appeared at least 150,000 years ago. Skulls of the Homo 1, Homo 2, and Kanjira man. And we will stop right there and pick back up. I'm Uriel Riley. This is Civilization or Barbarism. Peace.